If this is your first time on this channel, while you will be able to follow most if not all of what I'm about to say, you'd be better served by going to our Start Here playlist from the DIY Salvation homepage so you can immediately learn about and start practicing this most wonderful subject of TROM, which stands for the resolution of the mind. It's been almost 2 years now since I started this channel, and this channel and the state of TROM have come a long way since then. In 1978, Dennis Stevens wrote a valuable yet confusing book on how one can resolve one's mental and spiritual condition working on one's own. And later on in the 90s he completed his work by sending cassette correspondences to his friends who were interested in TROM and had questions about TROM theory as well as how to better do their exercises, and a great deal of the data on these lectures helped clarify the subject further, and at the same time much of that data would confuse the layman. I first came across TROM sometime around 2008, maybe 2010. It was on a website for ex-Scientologists who wanted to practice Scientology independent of the church and also practice any newer mental and spiritual technologies developed by former Scientologists. I read the first few pages, got a headache from it, and forgot about it. In October of 2018, I came across TROM again. It was after I had my last straw with the Church of Scientology. Since Scientology bashing is not my main focus, I will spare you the details of what they did, and just tell you that I finally reached the point of no return with the church, where I realized just how thoroughly I'd been manipulated into thinking that Scientology was mankind's only hope, that L. Ron Hubbard had completely solved the problem of the human mind and spirit, and that my only path to spiritual salvation was with Scientology and the church, and because of that, I put up with all sorts of abuse from the church as well as other members for fear that if I didn't, I would lose access to that route. Now that I've had years to reflect on that, I know that even though Hubbard made many valuable discoveries, that Scientology, just like any other technology, can be improved upon, and also the Church of Scientology, not unlike any other organization, religious, political or otherwise, can become corrupt. After coming into contact with TROM once more in 2018, this time I ruthlessly studied it regardless of how poorly it was instructed, not only in the manual, the lectures, and the TROM Help website. I knew that despite TROM's poor presentation, that there was something valuable that I could not ignore. And this intuition I had about the subject was so strong that it overpowered all of my previous indoctrination that I was committing some sort of crime against the Church of Scientology by even reading the work, and even more so daring to try the exercises. I fought off these lingering falsehoods that doing TROM would fry my brains just because it wasn't L. Ron Hubbard's works. I got over this idea that the Church of Scientology had any right to tell me what I could or could not study and practice just because they had a large collection of books and lectures stored in a so-called church, which really, when you think about it, is little more than a library and a counseling center staffed by well-dressed slaves whose actual intent is not to free mankind, but to take over planet Earth and subject us all to Scientology ethics and administrative policies, which are flawed at best. Scientology technology can be used to free the mind and spirit. But that's not what the church uses it for. It makes them money, and it empowers their parishioners to become more able people who can think more clearly, work better, study better, and communicate better, but it comes with the condition that you are going to help the church forward their agenda. And the church will make you believe that agenda is to free all mankind. But as I have briefly stated just now, and I state in more detail in my journal entry and video with the same title, Scientology and Prison Earth, the agenda is to enforce their policies on the rest of the planet so we can all live according to L. Ron Hubbard's idea of moral conduct. Freedom and empowerment are not necessarily the same things. One can empower oneself so they can reach greater levels of freedom, or someone else can empower you so that you become a better tool to suit their agenda. Know the difference. Scientology technology does work. And so does fire. And so does nuclear fission. I trust I've made my point. In 2 or 3 weeks' time I finished studying Dennis Stevens's book and all of his lectures. Once finished, in a half-confused state, I began the first set of TROM exercises. After a few days of that, I began TROM Level 2. During that time I noticed a dramatic change in my own mental condition. I started to think more clearly. I noticed details in my environment that I had not before. Unwanted thoughts entered my mind less frequently. But most importantly, I knew there was hope for me, something I hadn't had for a very long time. Level 2 of TROM took me about 6 weeks, doing about 3 hours per day. At the end of that, I knew I would never be the same again. I knew that the church was wrong about so many things, most importantly the indoctrination that anyone who tried to improve on Scientology was a squirrel who'd lead you down a dark path that would further entrap your soul. I knew that I would never have to pay another penny for the sake of resolving my mental and spiritual condition again. TROM Level 3 seemed to go on forever, and I got so impatient with it that I moved on to TROM Level 4, convincing myself I was ready when I wasn't. My first Level 4 session lasted only a few minutes, long enough for me to know I was not ready for it, and I was glad to return to Level 3 and get it all cleaned up. I've made it through Level 4 of TROM, and I've gotten as far as running TROM Level 5C. I have yet to finish TROM Level 5. It's no overnight activity. If your aim is to finish all 5 levels of TROM, you will have to commit years of your life to it and practice it regularly, if not every day. I'm not saying this to discourage you, even though this does sound like bad news. The truth of the matter is, in Dennis's book The Resolution of the Mind, a Games Manual, he states that Level 4 of TROM is an acceptable point to end therapy. For me this took 6 months or so. I can't make any promises to you on how long it will take anyone else. In a later lecture in the 90s, Dennis said that one can safely end therapy at TROM Level 3, and your case at that point will be quite stable indeed. When I first started this YouTube channel, I made the same fundamental mistake Dennis did in his original book by trying to teach the more advanced theory first. As I continued on, I realized that the most important thing I could do for the public was to demonstrate to them how the exercises are done. The main focus of our videos and lectures is on TROM levels 1 through 3. TROM is now accessible to the masses. You don't have to plow through a confusing book and listen to hours of confusing lectures to understand it well enough to start practicing it. You can gain a thorough enough understanding of TROM levels 1 and 2 with our beginner playlist, and you will learn how to run level 3 like a pro if you listen to the Alison Tandry lectures. Anyone of average intelligence or higher, who has had a high school education or higher, who is brave enough to undertake the task can now do TROM levels 1 through 3 with confidence that they will know what they are doing. But just because I have made this available and accessible to the masses does not necessarily mean the masses will embrace it. Just the fact that Dennis Stevens was once a member of the Church of Scientology is enough to drive some of you away. The temptation to endlessly study advanced TROM theory, talk it over with your friends, and never get around to the exercises is also there. And then there's people like Pete McLaughlin and his TROM Help website that make TROM harder than it actually is, further complicates matters. There are actually people out there who have defended his typo-ridden site, his confusing books that leads people astray to other practices to me. But there are far more people who've thanked me for what I have done. I am one of the few experts on this subject left on this planet. There are almost certainly people who know the subject better than I do, and are more advanced in their TROM levels than I am. But none of these people have taken the level of responsibility for the subject that I have. But if you think I am wrong about this, and if you can find such a person, please let me know who that is, as I will be more than happy to work with such a person. It is my hope that others who learn about TROM can reach the same level of expertise that I have or even beyond, and that they too will take responsibility for the subject as well, even if it's just to stop relaying the same confusing study materials without study help and share with them the lectures and videos I have created on this channel. And even if you don't become such an expert, but you still care enough about TROM and about the happiness of your fellow man that you share my work with others. Always remember this. The most important thing is to get people started on the TROM exercises. And the most important theory for them to learn is that which applies to TROM levels 1 through 3. You don't need to be an expert on TROM to benefit from it or tell others about it. There's not much more I can do for you other than these videos, these lectures, and this advice. If your ambition is to take TROM all the way to total understanding of its theory, and you want to finish the entire program, then I admire your ambition and you have my support. And in any case, you can always write to us and we will respond in a timely manner. I never want anyone interested in TROM to have to go through what I did in order to understand it. And you won't. That's my promise to you. I wish you the best in your efforts to resolve your mental and spiritual condition. Creating this channel for you has been one of the greatest joys in my life, second only to practicing TROM myself. I ask nothing in return for this, other than you not letting my efforts go to waste. I'm Allison Tandri. We are DIY Salvation. Don't just use your mind. Resolve it.